Well, let's get into the news of the day. Will Benson optioned to Triple-A. The Reds, I guess, were allowed to add a pitcher to the roster. The original roster allowment required that the extra player be a position player, but because of the rain, they were able to add a position. They were able to add a pitcher on Sunday morning. Now, this player was gone, and the Reds were going to have to get rid of one position player on Monday either way. So it's basically just jumping a gun a day ahead. The Reds decide to option Will Benson down to Triple-A. Let's go through Will Benson's season. So Will Benson starts the year at Triple-A. I don't think anyone was too shocked by that, given he had a pretty disappointing 2024 season and was okay. I think probably at best during spring training. But he goes down to Triple-A, hits 341 with a 943 OPS over his first 9 games. Meanwhile, the Reds lose 3 straight games, 1-0. With a lot of lesser players on the roster. Benson gets promoted to the big leagues. He flies across the country to San Francisco, plays in 1 game, goes 0 for 4, and gets optioned back. And then Benson does not get to the big leagues until May 10th. Continues to hit well at Triple-A. And up until May 10th, the Reds gave a total of 107 at-bats against right-handed pitchers. Not against right-handed pitchers to Blake Dunn, Jacob Hurtubise, and Santiago Espinal. Benson finally gets up, wins NL Player. Doesn't really get the results after that Player of the Week award, but the expected stats clearly show that he's been incredibly unlucky and one of the Reds' best hitters. And if you don't believe me, here's what Reds hitting coach Chris Valaika had to say just a few days ago to Charlie Goldsmith. Valaika said, quote, "He's been doing a great job with his mentality. The result may not be there, but he's putting together good at-bats. The playing time comes and goes with him. When he's been in there and been consistent, we've seen a productive player out of him." And Austin Hayes also added this. He had that crazy hot streak earlier in the year. The numbers cooled off, but he didn't cool off. He was smoking balls the whole time. He just had some really bad luck. Every time he was touching was 105 miles per hour to the middle of the field. Kudos to him for just sticking with the process and not trying to chase hits. I never felt like he really cooled off with his approach and his swing. Doesn't look like his approach and his swing that was raved about was good enough to stay on the big league roster. Mike, what are your thoughts on this move?
This is one of those things. It was like the train crash that you saw coming, and you wish that I was just like we talked about it earlier, and we saw, oh man, it's probably going to be Benson, even though everything that I wanted was that it wasn't that way. You're just like, there is something about what he's been able to do, not only, like you said, numbers wise, but mindset wise, that has been such a change. There's been such a change that is infectious within this team. You can see, you're getting quotes like that from Austin Hayes of this guy that he loved to be around, that really has changed tangibly in his mindset, and that is driving this team, and then that has legitimately carried you to win multiple games. The whole series of Cleveland was won by Will Benson. He basically batted 500, and you could hear it in the Guardians. And the Guardians, the play-by-play announcers, just like, why do we have, why can't we get this guy out of here fast enough? Like, Benson absolutely destroyed his old team. He came back and hit that triple that basically saved the season before the All-Star break against the Rockies that led to him scoring on the contact play, and then again wins you the game yesterday. Without Benson, you got swept by the Braves. Benson steals second and scores that run and hits the left-on-left home run that gets you enough to allow Pagan to hang on. And the way he's rewarded is, say, hey, sorry, you're going to have to head down to Triple-A. And it's so frustrating. He's shown improvement in defense. He's shown improvement in his strikeout percentage. He's shown improvement in being willing to, be smarter on the base paths. And it seems like, unfortunately, that gets rewarded with being sent down just because he's, unfortunately, one of the guys left with options. And that's just unbelievably frustrating as somebody who is watches this team every day, and will tell you absolutely would I have rather had. This is no shame towards Jake Fraley. I think I like what Jake Fraley has done, but would I have rather had Will Benson batting in the bottom of the ninth inning against Raisel Iglesias than Jake Fraley? Absolutely. Absolutely, I would have, because there's just this upside that he's going to hit the ball somewhere to drive in runs. And I know he did go through a cold streak where it was struggling, but we have example after example. The only reason he got run in the Cleveland series was because Friedel got hurt and he had to play center field. So when this guy gets extended periods of time where he gets to play, he shows that he can put together a absolutely bona fide big league stat line. And it's just really unfortunate that we're sitting at a spot here where we're just like, well, the only way he's going to get playing time anymore is if we have another injury. And he deserves better than that. I think he does. I think he deserves better than what he's been dealt by the Reds here this season.
Yeah, it's not like he's like the stat that I've used for 3 years here is the expected weighted on base average is kind of the best indicator on where a player's where they should be. It's not like there's just like a little gap. Like it's not like he's leading by a little. It's a wide gap between him and everyone else. And like even for the people who don't believe that stat. Like, that's fine if you don't believe that stat. Did you believe the 2 balls that he's been robbed of home runs? I mean, like, the guy was legitimately robbed of 2 home runs. And when you start adding up home runs into, like, OPS, home runs go a long way. I mean, look at Spencer Steer. You take away the 3 home run game that he had, his numbers are absolutely atrocious this year. And so a couple of home runs go a long way. So for me, the most frustrating thing is the Reds right now are a long shot to reach the playoffs, and it's gotten longer this week. So for me, I want 2 things. I want a player that gives me a little bit more upside that could maybe actually get hot and carry the team. I just don't see that out of Jake Fraley and Gavin Lux. Like, I don't see them carrying the team. Will Benson gives you that possibility. Is it high? No, but he gives you the possibility of going on a really, really long hot streak. The other thing is this. You're also in a spot where it's a long shot to reach the playoffs. Is Gavin Lux a part of the Cincinnati Reds' future? Is Jake Fraley a part of the Cincinnati Reds' future? Is Miguel Andujar a part of the Cincinnati Reds' future? No. Will Benson, is he a part of the Reds' future? I don't know. At some point, you got to let this guy really get a chance to play and figure that out. And, I mean, just what he did in that Atlanta series, playing good defense in center field, I thought maybe that would be enough. Like, what more do you want out of this guy? And yeah, it pisses me off. It really does. And I hope Jake Fraley and Gavin Lux get red hot, and I eat my words on this, but I just don't see it.
Yeah, and one of the things you got to think is like, well, what do they do instead? And so I guess, what are your thoughts? I mean, the obvious one, at least to me, is maybe they just option Espinal instead, because Fraley and Lux don't have options. You would have to DFA them if you didn't, and you're probably not DFAing Lux because that basically means you admit defeat on that trade you made at the beginning of the season, right? That was signaling that you were going for it, And then if you DFA, I guess DFAing Fraley, it's you wonder. I don't know. Do you think Fraley gets picked up? I would imagine they tried to shop him. And the reason he's still on the Reds is because nobody wanted him. So I guess what is your thoughts on what what would have been your move instead of Benson going down for this game and this series coming up?
I mean, I just would have sent Espinal down, and I would have lived with the extra left-handed batter. I mean, if Espinal was actually like hitting left-handed pitching, like it's a little bit of a different conversation. But he hasn't done anything. They should have traded one of these guys, even if it was Benson. I mean, they should have traded Benson at the trade deadline. I don't understand why all 3 of these guys are still on the roster. Jake Fraley's a unique player because he has that injury right now that I don't know if like literally no one was giving up anything for him, and you're kind of in a spot where you can't really you can't DFA him. Like he's been a solid player. It felt like Gavin Lux is probably the guy, but I don't know. Maybe the Reds are just like you'd be selling so low on him right now. I don't know. The way this roster ended up working out just does not fit well at all.
Well, and also the other caveat or the other cog in this is that Hayes is clearly nursing something, right?
Yeah.
Hayes is clearly not at 100%. So, this all might be moot if if, Hayes goes onto the IL and they just bring Benson right back, which may also have been why they were reluctant to move him, is because they're like, well, we know there's this thing going on. Maybe it's still that foot that he fouled off of. Maybe it's something else. I don't know, but it's clearly keeping him from playing in the field. And to be honest, he's not really performing at the plate either. So it's one of those things where this all may be moot here in a couple days because of something that does happen, but it's pretty frustrating to see. I don't think Benson is down, until September call-ups. You know what I'm saying? But yeah. The only thing is if we send Espinal down, and I'm not saying I agree with this. I'm going to caveat it this way to start out with Nick. But Tito clearly likes having backups at each position. And as much as
Except
we
for center
hate to see
field.
it, that's the thing. So basically, it's like if we send Espinal down, we no longer have a backup for first base. But now, if with Benson down, we no longer have a backup for center field. So it's like, whichever one he feels. So I guess Espinal is here because of his ability to play all the corners plus first base. There's an argument that can be made that Andujar could play first base. I'm not trying to. He's played, I think, once there this year. I guess Espinal's only played there 2 or 3 times. But the argument that I feel that we're seeing is that just like, well, Espinal has a little bit more utility in the places he can play than Benson. Now, do I think that outweighs the upside that Benson gives you? Absolutely not. But I'm just trying to get into the mind of the front office or Tito and like why they would do something like this. Because the idea is like, well, Friedel is going to play every day. That's what he does. And if he does get hurt, then we've got Benson to call up and be able to do something that way. So that's kind of what I think their mindset was and why they sent him down. Now, do I think that it's right? No. I would much rather have had Benson in this lineup, taking any one of those pinch hit at bats that happened today. But that's I guess why I think that he's still here, or why Espinal's here and not Benson. So I don't know what you think about that prospect, or if I'm missing something here.
No, I think you're spot on. I'm very curious why there isn't any. Why where the Reds are at and how mediocre Spencer Steer's been all year, that they haven't tried to come up with anyone else to be a backup first baseman other than Espinal. Like you have like Lux, like is Lux just complete? I mean, they tried to have Gavin Lux play third base in spring training. Yeah. Why couldn't he try to play first base or any of these other guys? I mean, hell, Benson, even Fraley, like, you know what I mean? Like, could any of these other guys have tried to play first base to at least be able to get you a better bat in the lineup? It's kind of a weird thing how they've used first base and how they've decided who's going to be a backup and who's not.
And it's clear though that they are, and we can see tons and tons of instances in the infield at least that they value defense there. Espinal being there in defensive reliever replacing Marte in the 7th inning. Steer has, we can knock where he's been offensively, but has been quite a breath of fresh air. And if Matt Olson doesn't exist, he might be winning a Gold Glove at first base this year. So, they clearly emphasize that on the infield and are willing to let people play through terrible spurts there, and they clearly don't value that as much in the outfield. That's what we're still running Gavin Lux out there and Miguel Andujar, who are very below average when it comes to most of the defensive metrics. So I don't know why, but it seems like they value it on the infield but not the outfield, and that's why Steer is basically getting run out there every single day. So I don't claim to know why that makes sense, but there's that seems to be what we're looking at here.
Yeah, defense matters except for left field. It just that it feels like they just keep contradicting themselves, right? Like with Lux
Yeah.
and Andujar being your left field options. I don't exactly understand a lot of how things have played out, but we digress. We move on. Um, Good luck, Will. Hope you go down to AAA and rake for a fourth time this year, and maybe your number can get called again. Stay ready, young man, as the great Craig Sandlin would say. Any other final thoughts on this game or where the Reds are at before we move into Reds MILB and talk about a big series coming up against the Cubs?
No, just I like the Reds being the plucky underdog here. We're the ones that have been counted out by even people on in Chatterbox. In my mind, sometimes I feel like, oh well, we're done with the season. But I like them being the plucky underdog. That would be super cool to see them come in and do something awesome. Maybe overtake somebody in a really cool fashion. So I'm still here, like as much as we complain, we're still huge Reds fans and would love to see the Reds go and do something crazy this season. So, I know we haven't put ourselves in a great spot, but boy, let's do something. Let's do something fun. Let's do something exciting and have us in it here in September.